In the last 24 hours, if you were a long leverage trader, you probably woke up to a liquidated account or maybe really down in your position as the progress of the crypto bills that were expected to get passed this week has come to a complete halt. That has been a huge factor to Bitcoin price being down, and in the end could be a perfect opportunity if you missed out on the run all the way up to 123,000. Maybe this was the opportunity you were looking for, and I want to explain why this could be the perfect entry point. That's even though there is still some unknowns happening this week that could maybe potentially provide even better entries. We're going to talk about that, as well as the fact that meme coins and altcoins kind of really didn't pay attention to any of the news or Bitcoin's drama today. A lot of your cryptocurrencies were up in the double digits, altcoins specifically doing quite well, even though Bitcoin was having a rough day. XRP has some pretty big news as far as its expansion into Europe, and there is a lot of focus on stablecoins, especially this week. One of the biggest topics was, in fact, stablecoins and not even Bitcoin. We're going to talk about one of the biggest benefactors of that. All that and more in today's video. If you're new here, my name's Alex. Talk about crypto news on the daily, making sure you stay up to date with everything that is happening when it comes to the crypto space. If you enjoy content like that, consider subscribing. You enjoyed this video, smash up the like. Without further ado, let's jump into the video. So we talked about this Saturday going into this week, saying that this week is going to be very, very tumultuous, and primarily due to the fact that the whole upside or downside to Bitcoin is going to be predominantly based on the news that comes out with these three crypto bills. We went into those this weekend, Saturday. We talked about those to prepare you for the week ahead. And in many ways, there was a lot of expectation because of Trump pushing for these to get passed and essentially endorsing Republicans to pass all three of the bills. There was a lot of expectation, high hopes that all three of these would pass with ease because they had already been passed by whether it was the House or the Senate before. And essentially this was should have been a no-brainer. But there have been some standouts, and I'm going to talk about why and maybe give some perspectives from people who have decided to vote no and what this could mean for crypto moving forward. But this was the main key driver for the price of crypto going down. This obviously is not what people were looking for, especially if you were long in Bitcoin. But this happened earlier today. There was expected to be at 5 p.m. Eastern a revote that also got called off on a failed procedural measure. So this is kind of keeping things all in limbo as to what is going to be headed next and what is going to be moving forward with this. And on top of that, it's not only these crypto bills that are possibly playing a role into the overall market sentiment. You have the Trump Doge cuts that are also playing a role. There's a defense bill. There's a lot of things that are being voted on this week that have a lot of high stakes. And that's essentially what it is. When you take a look at the legislature for this is going to be deadline of Friday. This is to get to Trump's desk. You also adding to the pressure. Trump is saying, hey, he's going to withhold his support for anyone who votes against it. And this week you also have the likes of Mike Waltz, who is scheduled to appear for his confirmation hearing for the U.S. ambassador. So there's just a lot of things happening this week that, negative news is obviously going to not be great. You also have the additional details for the government spending. There's a lot of things happening this week that are going to be very, very impactful. If you go back over here, they talked about what this looked like for the tanking of this bill in the 196 to 223 vote, and why 13 Republicans voted no. Now, I want to hear real quick from one representative who interviewed talking about why she said no to this. And her specific point was the fact that the by voting yes in this bill specifically, in her perspective, would still leave a pathway or a door open to a CBDC. So they're wanting to essentially revise it where it really puts the nail in the coffin, where there is absolutely no possibility of a CBDC ever to be even considerable. So we're going to listen to this real quick.
The Genius Act, President Trump wrote an executive order on January 23rd, and specifically on exactly what the Genius Act is about, except they did not include what was in his executive order, which is a ban on a central bank digital currency, which is extremely important, and the president feels it's important, and that's why it was in his executive order. And the Senate left that out. And then they sent this over to the House, and Speaker Johnson didn't allow us to do amendments to amend the bill to ban CBDC. And that's a House issue. It's not, I fully support the president. I will vote for the Genius Act when they ban central bank digital currency in the Genius Act. So we need to get it right. It shouldn't be run through and us forced to vote on something that they take away our rights.
So that was essentially her whole stance, is the fact that, you know, there's a path there's a path forward potentially for CBDCs if this was to get signed blindly the way it is. So they're essentially wanting to have enough time to go back, rehearse it, make some minor changes in order for things to move forward. And I think that is going to be the biggest thing, is that, you know, this is going to be one of the things that obviously crypto is very near and dear to Trump's heart when it comes to getting the United States at the forefront of it, and being able to pass all of this in the best mindset possible, the best type of information that's included, the best type of legalese that's included, because this is a finalization and this really sets a standard. So this, I think it is very important to not just go over this very briefly and just pencil whip it, as we call in the Air Force, not to pencil whip something and just say, hey, it's good. You want to really take a look at it and, you know, making some changes that could be detrimental and impactful for the future is very, very important. So I think this is a temporary setback. I think in the end, this continues forward. But obviously, you're going to have people on both sides of the spectrum, and on the likes of Democrats, one specifically from the likes of California, saying that both bills would legitimize and legalize unprecedented crypto corruption by the President of the United States. These bills would make Congress complicit in Trump's unprecedented crypto scam. One, he enriched himself, his entire family, and billionaire insiders and staff, his cabinet, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Which I think is one of the most stupid, idiotic things to ever say, considering the fact that many lawmakers, and this is a ongoing point of contention, that lawmakers, not directly, but through their spouses, are able to make trades knowing on certain committees that they sit on to make tens of millions, hundreds of millions of dollars by enriching themselves from having knowledge or being able to vote or persuade a vote in a certain direction, where all of a sudden this company gets a contract. Oh, wow, you know, congratulations. You know, we were holding $500,000 in, you know, stock in this company. We didn't know they were going to get this contract, even though we're sitting on the defense committee. I mean, it's all of this stuff, this level of corruption on both sides in Congress. So to say that, you know, it's going to only due to the fact of corruption because it's going to benefit Trump, well, congratulations, it's going to benefit a lot of people, in many instances your counterparts. So, you know, it's a very stupid response, and I think in many ways there's going to be a lot of people who would benefit from the broader scope of what this does for crypto, and more specifically for stablecoins. So to say, you know, hey, it's like putting out something that we're not going to approve something for, you know, trading on the NASDAQ because it's going to enrich one or two people. Well, it's already enriched several hundred, and it's a process that's going to continue within Congress because they have insider information that while they can't trade on it, their spouses can trade on it, or people that they know can trade on it, or they publicly state that they're buying NVIDIA stock knowing NVIDIA is going to get a defense contract. So it just absolutely makes no sense, at least in my perspective. It's something I get quite heated on because I think it is one of the things that most people, when you vote to get your person or to get an individual to represent you, that person is to benefit you and to serve you, not to serve themselves. And 99% of people in Washington, D.C., unfortunately, are there only to serve themselves. Now, brings us to talk about Bitcoin, because Bitcoin is one of those things that decouples and gives the opportunity to, if you will, the average individual, because it is decoupled from the whole corruption that does occur specifically in DC. And when you take a look at Bitcoin, this is one of the things that we talked about. I said the huge level of support for Bitcoin is going to be this 50-day moving exponential moving average. If we break below this 20-day, which we did, we couldn't reclaim it, we couldn't stay above it, and now we tested a new level of support. And that is where we are right now. I think right now, this is a very, very, very strong look on a 4-hour candle. A very, very strong approach. It's going to be interesting to see. This is going to be the big thing, right? We still have a couple of big things happening this week. So whether we touch up here, we may retest down here. We may trade a little bit sideways along the 117,000, 118,000 until we get some really good news, or maybe potentially worse news, right? And that, I think, is going to be a catapult. I'm hoping that is going to be good news, because at that point, I think we go back to 120K and then back to new all-time highs. I don't think it's going to be very difficult to break out above this. Like I said, I think the news from earlier today is a minor setback. And like I said, this is exactly repeating everything that we talked about, the levels of support, where things are going to bounce for Bitcoin, and where things are going to go higher. You had whales who are taking profits. Obviously, why not? I mean, you look at the fact that many people, once Bitcoin started breaking out, your big whales, in just a matter of, what you saw in Bitcoin's price in the course of 10 days, you get almost 12% gains. That is very, very impressive for Bitcoin specifically. And why not take that type of opportunity to take some profit off the table? So, don't blame them, but that is one of the contributing factors. Now, outside of Bitcoin, altcoins have done extremely well. Pumped Out Fund has been one of the top performers. One of the things that has been leading to this potentially has been a rumor, reported. This is Pump Fund. I don't believe anything from I've seen come out and publicly stated that they have done this, but it has been reported that they have initiated a Pump token buyback, purchasing about $2.3 million worth of Pump tokens. And this was funded via the project's fee wallet. So the fees that Pump Fund generates from the platform, using that revenue to buy back their tokens, one of the contributing factors why Pump Fund is the top performer in the last 24 hours, up almost 17%. And those who got in on the pre-sale price of 4.004, obviously doing quite well for themselves, up a significant amount. You see also others that are doing quite well. One of those we're going to talk about later as well. Pingu, Pudgy Penguins. I've talked about this numerous times, but I mean, in the last 7 days, up 113%. I told many of you who watched my videos that this was going to happen. There's a lot of very bullish news for the Pingu token, and there's even more bullish news that dropped in the last 12 hours. We're going to talk about that as well. Also, XRP is continuing to rip. I think before long, this $3 level of resistance is going to become support, and we're going to go to all-time highs. There's just more and more bullish news for XRP, applying for the MiCA license in Europe to expand to XRP and launch its stablecoin from Luxembourg. Europe is very, very finance heavy. You have some of the biggest financial capitals, if you will, when you think of like Switzerland, right? A lot of financial banks derive from Europe. So this type of impact with the likes of XRP could be very, very massive. It could have a rippling effect, if you will. And I think it's going to be very, very bullish for the likes of XRP. I think this is going to drive XRP higher. The CEO of Japan's largest bank even saying XRP will be a very high price. A video of him going into that. But either way, I think there's a lot of very bullish things when it comes to stablecoins, especially with XRP in going into Europe. And stablecoins was the hot topic for Standard Chartered when they were in the US. So Standard Chartered said that Bitcoin was overshadowed in the discussions. 90% of the conversation was talking about stablecoins, and less than 10% was about Bitcoin. Stablecoins are going to outpace Bitcoin the rest of this year. And so there's a large focus on how stablecoins are going to impact. That's why I think the anticipation about the Genius Act, that is going to get right, because so much money relies on it. There's going to be enough lobbying. There's enough things to push this forward and to get it signed and to get it done. And once it's done, there's going to be some huge benefactors of that. You look at Coinbase, you look at the likes of Ethereum, you look at XRP. There's going to be some cryptocurrencies that are going to be huge winners when this does get passed. Something to keep an eye on. And the last thing that I really want to touch on is talking about the Pingu token, Pudgy Penguins. They do have a massive update coming with their partner, Suplay, one of the top collectible companies in China. They announced their game that is going to be dropping. There's just a lot of really great things about Pingu that are happening. And if you're sitting on the sidelines, you're missing out on the top runner in the past month, up 230, almost 232%. This is very massive. I think there's more upside to Pingu. I think this is something that could easily still be, it's up 231%. There's potential for Pingu to be a $5 to $10 billion market cap. That is how massive of an opportunity there exists for the likes of Pingu. I would not venture to say that there is a 5x upside in likes of Pingu. Very possible in its future, something not to shy away from, something to keep an eye on. And we've been talking about this for the last several days. That said, let me know your thoughts about Bitcoin. Bitcoin's corrected. Is this the correction? Is this the perfect entry? Are we going higher? Is this the level of support that we're testing? And now we're back to 120K. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. If you enjoyed this video, smash up a like. Enjoy content like this, consider subscribing. Until next time, guys, stay invested.